Alright guys, welcome back to Nifty Network. Today I'm going to show you how to remove your transmission on a G37. It's an unfortunate situation, but I'm going to teach you how to do it right now. To get the Y pipe off, I have a 14 with a wobbly. This seems to work really well. Even if the nut is super rusted, just make sure that the socket is all the way down and you don't slip off, so just do that. I mean, you can see this one, it was pretty rusted and it came off with ease. Obviously this gun helps a lot, but having a impact socket and a wobbly, it'll make your life way easier. So get those 4 front 14s off, and then we'll come to the back of the Y pipe. Same thing. And then once you got the Y pipe freed up, get a pry bar and just kind of push back a little bit because the rubber bushings will have play. So just pop this off of there, pop it below. Same thing on this side. Make sure to hold on to the Y pipe because when you take the front off, it's gonna want to fall. And then this just wiggles off. And once you get the Y pipe off, I like to work from right here. So get a 12 wrench to the top. You would think that you take it off from the bottom with that nut. Don't do that because you'll strip that. So loosen this up a little bit, and then I'll rotate this clamp, and then I'll take it off the rest of the way with an impact. And this side's already taken off, but basically you do the same thing over here. There's the same clamp right here because it's dual exhaust, and then you'll have this sleeve. And I always like to take off everything that's gonna like require 2 hands at first. So right now, basically this brace is holding the front part of the pipe up, and then this is holding the rear up. So now I'm gonna go to these 2 in the center, because if I take those off, it's not gonna fall on me. It'll come down a little bit, but at least it won't fall on you. So there's that. Now you can see that this is all loose. Now you can work up right here and twist that and pull that out. And this thing didn't fall on me. So then you just slide this out, and then you have the midsection out. And then now that we have the exhaust out of there, we'll go to this bracket, or this brace. That's 412. And then you'll grab a 10. You're gonna take these shields off. So there's 2 10s here. And then there's 4 10s on the rear section. And pull that down, and that will expose the drive shaft. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to grab a 12 wrench and come up here. You're going to want to loosen this. This is your shift linkage. So I'll show you why I'm doing that right now. So instead of like getting back in the car and putting it in park, basically all the way back is park, and then that you count the clicks. So there's 1 click, so that's reverse, and then that's neutral. So this should allow the drive shaft to spin freely so that we can go around the bolts back here on the diff. So on those, they're going to be 17s, and I grab a wobbly and a 17, and most of the time you don't even need to hold a wrench on here. You can just do it with your fingers. So just pull those off. And when you're pulling the drive shaft bolts off, you don't have to pull all these off. Just make sure, like, look at it and see which one is connected to the actual diff. So you only have to take 3 of the 6 off. Okay, so now those are off. We're gonna grab a 14. And there's a center support bearing right here. So now you're gonna wanna hold the drive shaft up because it can fall on you. Okay, so once that's loose like that, you want to slide the carrier bearing out, or slide it down, and then you're going to want to go forward, and that pulls out of the diff, and then you pull it back, and that is how you get your... All right, so now that I got the drive shaft and the exhaust out, that freed up all this room, now we are going to get the trans out. So what I like to do first is I will drain the trans and take this bracket off, and then I'll get the bottom bolts right here and then do the starter. So when that's doing that, I can be like, while this is draining, I can be doing other stuff. And then once I see that the trans is like basically almost drained, I'll undo the trans mount and let that swing down. And then that allows access to get to the wire harness that's up here, and it gives you access to get to these lines that are here, and then also the top of the bell housing bolt. So basically that was just a quick rundown of what happens in this video, but let's get started. This is a 19 on the drain if it's an automatic. Let's see if I can do it without getting fluid on me. I did okay. All right, so this is done draining now. I'm gonna take off all these bolts right here that hold the bracket on. Those are 14s. That out of the way, and then I'm gonna come up here, undo the 14s off of there. And whenever I'm like working on something, I always try to use, if I know that I'm going to take like other bolts or nuts off that have the same socket on, I just try to do that. So I know that I have to take this plate off of here too, and there's a bunch of 14s on here, so I'll just kind of run through this and take this plate off because we got to get to the torque converter, so this plate has to come off. You want to do these 14s first before you set the trans down, because it kind of does like a weird pitch on it, and it pushes these up like farther out of your way, but you want them in your way. Yeah, they're already kind of hard to get to, so you want to try and make it as easy as possible. This guy. If you need to move this line out of the way, just get a pry bar and kind of slide it up that way. Just give it a little tension. Don't do too much because you don't want to kink your power steering line. Yeah, these are kind of hard to see, but so there's gonna be 4 14s on the bottom. There's gonna be 2 14s for the starter. So basically, if you look in here, you'll see a bolt. See that bolt right there?
Yep.
So those are the torque converter bolts. There's 4 of those, and the way that you access the rest of those is you're gonna basically just spin the crank. So when you spin the crank, it spins the torque converter and the trans. You want to take 4 of the bolts out of there. If you don't take the torque converter off, you are going to deal with a gigantic cleanup. When you pull the trans off, the torque converter is full of trans fluid. Even though we drained it, it still stays full. So if you pull that out and the torque converter does not go with it, you're gonna have a pool of stuff to clean up. So make sure to do that. I'm gonna finish taking these 14s off though. Sorry, this is kind of the boring part because I have no room. There we go. I try to deal with things like in the area that I'm working at so that I don't forget something. So on this side, there's a little trans bracket, trans line bracket, I'm sorry. So I'll undo that off the motor, and there is 2 17s on the side of the trans. Okay, so that one's off. All right, so next I'm going to take those lines off, so I'm just freeing up space. These are your O2 sensor plugs, so just unplug those. You can leave the cats and O2 sensors on there, and I just kind of tuck this up over the cat like that. Get that out of the way, then you're gonna grab a 17 and reach up in there, break that loose. And there is a washer on the outside of the line and on the inside of the line, so make sure when you're putting it back together that you have both of those washers on the inside and outside of the line, because if you don't, you'll have a big leak. Okay, so now that that is freed up, I'm going to work my way around. I'm going to go do these torque converter bolts now. And to turn the crank, you're going to want to put a 19 socket on here. And you're going to want to pull clockwise. And you'll want to go above this line, and you'll put the 14 on there. Make sure that 14 is all the way mated on there, because these strip really easy. Like extremely easy. So take your time doing that. So there's one. There's two. There's the third one. And it looks like if I go to the right a tiny bit, might have a little more room. Because you see the rack is right here, so this is a big part, and then it skinnies up a little. So if you go to the right of that, you'll have a little more room so that you can get the socket flush on there. Okay, so this is the last one for the torque converter. Okay, so now all those are free. And to double check that, you should be able to put your socket on the crank and just kind of see how you can see the hole getting out of alignment right there. Like, see how it just spun off the hole? So that means you know that the torque converter is freed up from the flex plate. Then we'll walk around to this side. We can actually drop the back of the trans now. You get a little more fluid out of there. So I already got a 14 on. And then I always take the trans mount off, just to get a little more space. And then you always just want to like visualize to kind of see where you're at. Don't rush. Make sure to get everything out of your way and off that needs to get taken off. So now we're going to come up here. See this harness? There's a 14 on that holding the starter on. So if we undo this one, that bracket will free up, and then we can unplug it. So the plug is right there on the front. Push that in, pull that off, and then you're going to go up higher, and there's going to be another 14. So now the starter's off. And obviously, when you're dropping your trans, you want to make sure that your battery is disconnected, because if not, this is a live power wire on here, and it will spark and short out. Okay, so you can see that the starter is separated off of the trans. And then I'm going to go to the passenger side, and now you can kind of see the harnesses better. If you look right there, you'll see a plug that's easier to get to, and then that whole harness kind of goes farther up. So the harness is held on by 10mm bolts. You just undo that basically, and once this is done draining, you can cap the 19 now. So I mean, it's still draining a little bit, but we've got the majority of it out. So just tighten that drain bolt back up, and then we can move this out of our way. It might still drip a little bit just because those lines are unhooked, but so then we'll go up here. We see that there's a 10mm holding this plug on. So you just want to work your way around. There's a breather tube up here that we got to take off. There's another bracket up there, the 10mm. Okay, I don't want to cut you off, but okay, so once that's loose, you can get the rest of it with your hand, and then that freed up that part of the harness. So unplug this main plug. So if you push in this tab right here and just pull up on it. Okay, so there's that. And then you're gonna look up and you're gonna see the breather tube is connected to here, which is fine. And that is there. And then what I like to do is I like to drop it with the dipstick disconnected on both ends. So we'll take that off. So the dipstick is right here in front of the lines. Okay, so take the 10s off of there. So once that's loose, I have an electric ratchet. I'm gonna go up there and put that down. Okay, so now the dipstick has one more over here. So then now that that's off, we're gonna do the rest of the harness. So that's a 10mm on the driver's side. And then that frees up. And I'll actually take this harness and I'll put it over the trans, because the rest of the harness is on that side, and it kind of gives you a little more room to work with. So I'll push that way. And now we have everything freed up on this side. Obviously the last things that you're going to want to do are going to be the bell housing bolts. So we'll leave those for now. Double check this side. Alright, so you don't have to do this, what I'm doing right now. I'm doing this solely for the fact of you guys and being able to see better on this video. I'm taking the cat off, so... Okay, so that'll give us a lot more room so you can see. So basically, this is the dipstick tube right here. And follow that all the way up, and you'll see a 10mm sitting right on the front side of this. So where it starts to attach to the water pipe, there's going to be a 10 right there. Make sure to take that off, and then we'll pull the dipstick tube out of here before we drop the trans. Okay, so I'm just going to pop these out. Try to not break them. There's one. Alright, so now that top one, that bolt, it's a 10mm. I'll show you when I take this out. You're just going to want to pull the dipstick out of here to get it out of the way. Okay, so now that this is out, that 10 mil location that I've been trying to tell you or show you, if you follow the tube up, it's right here. So undo that 10, and then the dipstick is out. I'm gonna undo the breather tube on this. Okay, so just pinch this, get this off of here. And then to get this to come off, just press in on the tab and then slide that up. Okay, so the breather tube can hang out with the trans. Put the dipstick to the side. All right, so now that all of that is done, you're gonna want to get a long extension, or maybe 2, or maybe 3, and you're gonna get a 17 wobbly. And we are gonna get the top bell housing bolts. I like to do the top ones first because they're the hardest ones to get to. See that bolt over there that has the orange face on it? So that's the first one I'll do. So once that's broken loose, I'll go to the next one. So then the other one is right to the left of the one that we just took off. Make sure that you have it on there good. Alright, so that's on there good. We're gonna break this loose. And I'll leave my extension up there and I'll grab my impact. I always break it loose by hand because you can kind of feel if it's going to strip or not. So there's one out. There's the second one out. And that leaves us with, we have 6 left. We'll see if this one will grab it by itself. I doubt it. I'll probably have to break it loose. Yeah, so I got to break them all loose. Okay, so they're all broke loose on that side. Now we're going to come over here and do the same thing. Okay, so now all those are broke loose. What I do is I'll leave 2 of them in right now, and then I'll get the trans jack, or you might, if you're doing this on the ground, then you'll probably use like a dolly or a jack, or hopefully you don't just let it fall out because then you get hurt. But so there's the third one, and I leave one on each side. So the easiest the last 2 to get to, I leave those ones because we're gonna have a jack under here in a second, and I don't want to be fighting any more space. All right, so I just put the trans jack under here. I'm gonna pull those last 17s out. And you'll see the trans hopefully come down. So there's one. So you saw it, did you see it split apart a little bit right there? Now you can try and wiggle to see if that works, or if you need to pry it, you can also pry it.
Zach, oil pickup is Monday.
Okay, so once you're here, popped off of the subframe, you should be able to just go straight down. Be careful of those trans lines. You don't want to bend or kink those. And there you go. That is how you get a trans out of a G37 or G35. Obviously it has to be automatic.